Hey, and welcome to this week's Climate Dispatch. Johanna Miller, Vermont Natural Resources Council, joined here by my colleague Dan Fingus, Vermont Conservation Voters. We're anticipating that this is likely going to be our last dispatch of the 2025 legislative session. Legislators are hard at work just down the street. We anticipate likely that tomorrow may be their last day breaking for the session, although there are still many lingering, really critical issues grappling with education reform and funding issues. So when it comes to our issues, it's been, I would say, a mixed session, a mixed bag of results. I want to say thank you to you all. With your help, we held the line on some pretty aggressive assaults on some fundamental climate and equity and affordability policies when it comes to the Global Warming Solutions Act, our framework to ensure that Vermont is doing its part to cut planet warming pollution and move Vermonters off of high price cost volatile fossil fuels. So that framework is a really important component of strategic focus on cutting pollution and helping all Vermonters participate and benefit from the clean energy transition, as well as become more resilient in a warming world. So the governor's efforts to really, in particular, to really pull that bill back, undermine and gut it, were unsuccessful. We're grateful for legislative leadership who held the line, with your help, to hold the line on that really critical policy. At the same time, there were efforts afoot to repeal or undermine our participation in the Advanced Clean Cars 2 and Advanced Clean Trucks program. While the governor did issue an executive order that just delays enforcement of those programs, we didn't see what we had feared as more strong and detrimental amendments to that important policy as well. As you also know, the Clean Heat Standard, which is a program intended to help Vermonters and the fossil fuel heating sector transition to more cost-effective, clean, and local heat. That policy, we knew that was not going anywhere this legislative session. It requires an affirmative vote of the legislature, but still we were successful in not repealing that policy as well, because it is, there's been a tremendous amount of good work that has been done on that policy and some core provisions that we need to continue to tweak in it, including the fossil fuel registry. So while the Clean Heat Standard is not going to be implemented, we held the line on not repealing that important policy. And we have more work to do on all of these things, which is going to require your help. So glimmers of hope and forward progress. The governor just signed S50, which is a small but important bill that will make it easier to expedite and deploy larger scale solar systems. So moving the registration process for net metered projects from 15 kilowatts to 25 kilowatts, again, just intended to make it easier, more cost effective to get clean renewables on the ground out in Vermont communities. Also in H231, which is a miscellaneous fish and wildlife bill, there were important provisions related to successful and necessary implementation of the Climate Superfund added to that bill. That bill is now on the governor's desk, and ideally the governor will be signing it, and those small but important tweaks will be made. And again, with your help on the Climate Superfund, which, as you know, is really important policy intended to ensure that our largest fossil fuel polluters are held responsible for some of the cost of the damages that their products have caused, wreaking havoc on communities like mine, communities like Dan's and Plainfield that are have budgets underwater because of the floods and the damaging impacts from a climate warmed world. So Climate Superfund got some of the essential funding that it needed for the Vermont Treasurer's Office to do its critical work, $350,000 in the budget. And then the treasurer also put forward some of his own funds to make sure that his team can do the cost assessment that they need to do, which is a fundamental first step in making sure that that program can move forward on a solid footing. Importantly, we're going to be back next year advocating for the Agency of Natural Resources to get the funding that they need as well to do the important work that they are required to do in the Climate Superfund law. So successes and much more to do, but we just want to say gratitude in these pretty challenging times for continuing to stand up and to show up, and we know that we're going to need to lean into each other and do more in that arena, and Dan's going to tell you about some of the things we hope might be of interest to you. I just want to say thank you again from myself personally for all that you do in your communities and continuing to partner with us and the strategies that we know are critical to a healthy and habitable planet and to saving Vermonters money on their energy bills and all of the rest. Dan, tell us what they can do.
Yeah, well, I want to add my thanks to you all. I mean, when we made the call to call the Senate when it was time to push back on their efforts to get rid of our foundational environmental bills, you responded with hundreds of calls and thousands of emails more than once, and that was so important, so crucial to making sure that we could have the victories and not slide backwards this year. I also want to thank my co-host Joey for welcoming me to being a full-time host of this year. My first time, learning from Joey's experience being a weekly host on this kind of thing. Our call to action is pretty simple. While we've been able to make sure there's no backsliding here in Vermont, there is still terrible things and terrible ideas happening in Washington, D.C. And the Trump administration is still attacking our most important environmental resources, our democracy, and so much more. And so we are asking folks to join us and so many other organizations on June 14th at the No Kings rally. The main rally is going to be at the Burlington waterfront, but there's going to be rallies around the state. And so you can look at the link in the email to figure out which rally is best for you. And just let you know, we're going to have a full legislative bulletin coming out from Vermont Conservation Voters and VNRC in the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks so much, everybody.